Oops, so I'll start over. I'll call to order the November 16th, 2021 meeting of the McMinnville Water and Light Commission. Would the clerk take the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor Hill will be joining us shortly. Commissioner Tankersley?
Here.
Commissioner Gormley?
Here.
Commissioner Christensen?
Here.
Commissioner Tate?
Here.
Okay, thank you. Let me make this so I can see everybody better. Okay, thank you all for being here. First, we have the consent agenda. Do any of the commissioners want anything taken off of the consent agenda?
No.
Okay, and the consent agenda is here in a second.
Looks like just a minute.
Just the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I hear a motion to
So moved.
adopt the consent agenda and approve those minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner, second.
Second.
Commissioner Tate, thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. We have the accounts payable and purchasing reports. Does anybody have any questions about those?
No.
No.
Okay, then we'll move on. Next is consultant and partner reports. Brent, are you on the phone, I believe?
Yes, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
2020 stumpage sales, the boundary unit of that sale is ready to plant now. The slash piling is complete. We talked about getting that done in the fall, which is what we did. And so that'll be reforested this coming planting season, January, February. 2021 sales, 103 Road is complete. There's still some pre-commercial thinning and road maintenance project work to complete on that. That should be done here the next month or so. Reforestation also scheduled for the next few months. 750 Road is entirely complete, including project work, and reforestation will be done next few months. And Western Forest Products was the log buyer for that sale, and enclosed is a copy of their 2021 Forest Products Harvest tax return, which includes proof of payment for that sale. And so that's the final piece of buttoning this entire sale up. With the accounting's all reconciled, the project work's done, everything's good on the ground. And so I'd recommend release of their performance and payment bonds and the cash deposit of $25,000.
Okay, let's deal with that. I'm going to interrupt you. We'll deal with that for a second. Anybody have any questions of Brent about that sale or releasing the bonds and the deposit?
No.
And for the new commissioner, Kathy, there's a forest products tax you have to pay, and if they don't, our contract requires them to pay it, but if they don't pay it, the landowner is responsible. So that's why Brent went through all the trouble of getting all the return and the copy of the checks and such. And so, and Brent, you're satisfied that those taxes have been paid, right?
Yes, yep, absolutely.
Okay. So if we don't have any questions, do I hear a motion to release the performance and payment bonds as well as the $25,000 cash deposit on the 750 road sale?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Tate seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? It passes. Thank you, Brent. You can continue the report now. I was going to forget otherwise.
Reforestation, and a quick note here, we're currently surveying the 2021 planting areas and other past areas where we've had some ongoing interplanting that we've done. So we're doing all that surveying right now and to determine precisely what's necessary to replant or interplant in this upcoming planting season. What we're finding so far is real good news. I think we're going to be interplanting much less than we have in the last several years. So there'll be some to do, but looks like based on what I saw this growing season and what we're seeing with our surveys, we're gaining on a lot of the tough planting conditions we've had over the past 5-10 years.
Great.
The At the December commission meeting, I'll present the 2021 program review, 2022 harvest recommendations, and that proposed 2022 MB&G budget.
Great. Anybody have any questions of Brent?
Brent, wishing you a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank you very much. You too.
Thank you, Brent. Appreciate your good work.
All right. Well, I'll see you next month. Thanks a lot.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't think we have any appearance requests, do we, John?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Nor staff reports,
Correct.
old business?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, new business. We have the introduction of some new employees, which is always a good thing to do. And just a second here, and I'll get us going here. Sorry for the delay. Okay, so first, Chad, could you introduce our new employee, BJ Elliott?
Absolutely. Yes, tonight it's my pleasure to introduce to y'all BJ Elliott. He's Water and Light's new warehouse helper. He has been with the Water and Light team since August and has been a great addition to our team. He brings a wealth of warehouse experience with him and has been a great addition. So everybody, BJ Elliott.
Great.
Welcome
Welcome,
aboard,
BJ.
BJ.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about your background, please?
So I've been in warehousing for the last 15 years. I worked that long over at Betty Lou's and Noble Foods here in McMinnville as a warehouse supervisor.
Okay, great. And is Chad behaving himself? You can tell us later. Okay.
He's doing all right.
Thank you. And then I think it's only fair that we introduce ourselves. Why don't we start with Commissioner Gormley, please?
BJ, I'm Ed Gormley, and my family has a plumbing and heating company in McMinnville, and I've served on the board for a couple of years. So good to see you. Welcome aboard.
Nice to meet you. Thanks.
Okay, and then let's see, how about Jody Christensen, please?
Thank you. I'm Jody Christensen. I formerly was the executive director for the McMinnville Economic Development Partnership and have since moved on. And I think I've been on the commission, I don't know, 100 years? No, couple of years. Yeah. Nice. Welcome to the team.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
And Commissioner Kathy Tate, please.
Hi, BJ. I'm the CEO of Online Northwest, a local internet company here in town, and I've been in Yamhill County for more than 25 years, and I just joined the commission this year, so I am in a learning curve right now, right alongside you. So good luck, and I look forward to meeting you in person sometime.
Oh, thank you. You too.
And I'm Tom Tankersley. I'm the commission chair. I've been on the commission slightly less time than Commissioner Gormley. And we're very happy to have you here. And my real claim to fame is that I was a warehouseman for 3 different summers in college. So I appreciate it.
You got a special card that recognized it, didn't you?
Yes, I did. But so I appreciate the ability to handle things that way efficiently, and I'm glad that you're part of our team.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Welcome aboard.
Okay, so we're glad to have you here. And okay, so next, BJ, do you have any questions before I move on? I'm sorry. Any questions of us?
No questions, but I am thankful to be part of the company.
And we're glad to have you.
Glad to be part of the team.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and so our next one, would Marcy introduce Taylor, please?
Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce Taylor Brisbane. She's our new community relations coordinator. She joined Water and Light in October, and she's doing a fantastic job.
Great. Taylor, would you tell us something about yourself, please?
Of course. Hello, everyone. I came to Mac Water and Light also via way of MEDP. I was working there as their communications human, I'll say, before here. And I'm very excited to be on the team at Mac Water and Light. I've lived in McMinnville for almost 20 years, and I'm just really energized by our community. So I am quite thrilled to be able to make more connections in the community and be an ambassador for Mac Water and Light.
Great. So I'm not going to make you listen to us talk about ourselves again. You look like you were paying attention to me, but we're very happy to have you here. And any of the commissioners, anything you want to say special to Taylor? Ed?
Chairman, Taylor, tell us exactly what you do at McMinnville Water and Light.
Of course. So as the community relations coordinator, one of my large jobs is kind of launching us into the world of social media, but I'm also, I know, right? Look out, I'm going to be coming for bios from all of you commissioners shortly. But I also am doing a lot of various community events, making sure that, you know, we are up to date with all of the Turkey Rama things. I'm doing a lot of in-house stuff, kind of some community team building. I'll be planning our upcoming staff training days and just doing whatever Marcy and Trina and everyone else need me to do to keep a positive face out in the community.
Great.
So I don't think we've had anybody doing your job since we had Wes Thomas maybe at the company. John, would you say? Yeah. So
No,
great,
Trina was doing it.
Well, but Trina had to deal with us too as a
Yeah.
clerk.
to take care of the, yeah. Anyway, good luck to you. We look forward to meeting you in person, and it is a wonderful company. Thank you for being part of it.
Yes, and one of my upcoming goals is to get a group photo of the commissioners because I realized we don't have one. So I am looking forward to meeting back in person as well.
Great.
And
Okay.
tomorrow.
Yeah. So Jody, anything? Nope. Okay. Kathy? No. Well, thank you very much, Taylor. Welcome aboard. We're excited. We know you'll bring a lot of energy and expertise to the company, and we appreciate it.
Tom, one other quick thing. Taylor, are you handling the Santa Claus parade this year? Water and Light? I understand that the Downtown Association is trying to put together a Christmas parade.
They are trying to put together a Christmas parade, and I do have my finger on that pulse since that is was my job in a former life as well. Before I was at MEDP, I coordinated Santa's parade. I don't know if we have it in us to have a float this year, but perhaps I will chat with some people tomorrow and we'll see what happens.
It's pretty short notice with the email I got yesterday. So yeah, I said next year, make it happen. So.
I know the Downtown Association is working tirelessly right now to screw light bulbs into the new lights for the tree, the big tree. So they are working on getting that all put together.
Did they find someone to finally climb it and take care of it?
I'm not sure. I think they are like their first priority was just stringing the light bulbs, and then we'll see
Yeah.
who puts them up this week.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good luck.
I do know where there's a Santa suit.
Yeah, I think we had a volunteer, I think.
Chad?
No, no, I think it was the one who brought it up who volunteered.
John?
Okay.
You guys got a nice
Thank you, Taylor.
John's
Just
too
call
tall.
Ed about Santa. That's fine. Okay, is it time for Moss Adams, or are they not? Do we schedule them a little later? Oh, there's Keith. Okay, great. Okay, so so do you want to handle this, Mark? Introduction.
Sure, I can do that. Thanks, commissioners. Yeah, Keith Simovic is here this evening. He's going to present our audit. Sydney Jacoby was also going to be here with us, but she had a work conflict, and so she wasn't able to attend. First we'll hear from Keith, and then I'll take a little bit of time after his presentation to report staff's plans and progress on a couple of the improvement recommendations that the auditors identified in their audit this year. So with that, Keith, you want to take it?
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. I'm going to go ahead and try and share my screen here as well. So just bear with me for just a second, and I can pull this up. Hopefully this will pop up for everyone. And I will say, first off, just thankful to be here and at the end of the audit in the time frame that we kind of laid out initially. We did have a chance to meet with the audit committee recently. So I think that was back on November 4th. We got a chance to go through the audit results in more depth. So this is kind of the highlights from that meeting, but we had a very good, productive meeting, and that's something that I think is really important in this process. And we get a chance to meet with the audit committee both at the start of the audit, as we're doing our audit planning, talking about risk assessment as we kind of kick things off, and then of course we get to meet back up at the end when we have kind of our draft final results for the audit and everything as well, and get some thoughts and have some back and forth and answer questions. So very productive meeting, and I can say too, not all of our clients have an audit committee. So the fact that McMinnville Water and Light has gone to those lengths and had one for a number of years, I think definitely puts you in a different class than a lot of the entities that we work with, because you really get a good chance to have that engagement from your commissioners and everything. We really appreciate that. So very positive audit experience this year. One thing to note as well, and I did mention this to the audit committee, but we actually got to do it on site this year. Imagine that, right? We used to be on site every single year, and we would be going through contracts and agreements and invoices and checks and all kinds of stuff that we would normally look at on site in the past, other than when the world turns upside down in March 2020. And a year ago, the audit was done completely remotely. So it was very exciting to be back on site with all of your staff and with management, and really appreciated that opportunity. So thanks to everyone that had a hand in this process. So with that, real quick, I'm going to go actually just past the agenda real quick on our team. For some of those that might not know us, but this is a fairly consistent team with what we've had in the past year. And this is really just the core of our team. This isn't everyone. We do have two other staff that are involved on the engagement. This is the kind of the core of our team. Mark had already introduced me and mentioned Sydney Jacoby. She was the senior on our team that led our staff in the field. I'm the senior manager and engagement reviewer, so responsible for overseeing the entire engagement, setting the audit plan, and reviewing all of our work papers and the financial statements at the end of the day. Scott Simpson was our concurring reviewer. He's another partner and very experienced professional in our energy practice as well. So he works with me on a number of our engagements, but his role is really that quality control role, which is really, really important, and something that Moss Adams requires on all of the audits that we do. It's not a professional standard requirement, but something that we put a lot of stock into, as it's someone coming in that has no other involvement with your staff or anything. They're coming in, making sure, are we following our professional standards? And does the financial statements include all of the presentation, the disclosure that is required by the governmental accounting standards? And then Julie Desmoni, of course, is a technical resource, a very important partner who leads our energy and power and utilities practice for our firm as a whole. So she's kind of in these past, or since this most recent audit contract has transitioned into more of a technical resource role, as I've moved into the engagement reviewer role, but still she's available to you and your team throughout the engagement. Just a quick reminder of what you've hired us to do. When you hire us to perform an audit of your financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, what can you expect to receive out of this process? Well, really, boxes 1 and 2 there are what you're probably most familiar with. That you're going to receive an audit report, and you'll find that at the front of towards the front of your financial statements. And that report states whether, through all the testing that we did, looking back at contracts and agreements, whether that's reaching out and confirming certain balances with your depositories, or reaching out to your in-house legal counsel as well, and getting an idea of if there's anything else out there that should be disclosed or accrued for in your financial statements. Through all these procedures and looking at substantive documentation, we can get to a point following all of our professional standards saying, do we believe the financial statements are free of material misstatement, whether due to error or fraud? So that's what you'll see at the kind of towards the front of your financial statements. We also assist with putting together that actual financial statement document, but all the numbers and the disclosures and everything are coming from your team, from the NISC system, and they're reviewed, and we work very closely with your team to put that together as well. And then because we're working with an Oregon municipal corporation, there's an additional report that we have to issue that's unique to the state of Oregon. That's towards the back of your financial statement document. And there's some additional compliance procedures that the state of Oregon requires us to do if we're performing a financial statement audit for our Oregon Municipal Corporation. So there's some additional things that we note that we've looked at because of those state requirements. And I'd say most namely are going to be the public procurement standards that we spent some time looking at. That we're pulling contracts and looking at the procurement process to see, have you followed all the requirements that the state puts out there, depending on the size and type of procurement that you're going after. And then we issue what's known as a communication to those charged with governance. It's a separate letter that we issue each and every year as part of the audit process. And that gives you a little more insight into how did the audit go? Not only just the final deliverable of here's the financial statements, here's an audit report, and is that a clean audit report or not? But this is give you a little more insight as to, well, what happened along the way to get to that clean audit report? Were there audit adjustments? Were there findings? Was it a smooth process? Did you run into issues along the way? Did you feel like there was issues with the transparency? Those are the types of things that letter is intended for, and we issue that as part of the audit as well. Real quick, we had a couple of new transactions, and you'll see this kind of reflected in the financial statement document. We did talk through this a little more in depth with the audit committee. I just wanted to note this. The transactions, of course, I'm sure you're all very familiar with the City of Lafayette and City of Carlton. Yeah, you'll see some additional disclosures related to both the wholesale water contracts for both of those cities, and also the note receivable kind of repayment agreement that's in place with the City of Lafayette as well. So you're going to see that reflected, of course, in the transactions on kind of the main financial statements, but in those disclosures, I think within note 3, you'll see disclosure of the note receivable, and note 12 discusses the wholesale water contract. So those are new significant agreements. We definitely worked through those in our audit process and added those to our risk assessment process, and worked with the audit committee on that initially, as well as we identified these and made sure that we had copies of those of those contracts and agreements that were in place, the repayment agreements, and helped kind of draft the disclosures related to those, and had those vetted through your team, your legal counsel as well, to take a quick look at those to make sure everything was consistent with the agreements that were out there. So those were 2 new things that you will see reflected within the financial statements this year that, of course, were not in there in the previous year. In terms of the actual audit reports and what they say, the audit opinion on the fairness and accuracy of the financial statements that I mentioned initially, that's towards the front of the financial statement document. You'll see a clean audit report. So I don't think that can be overstated at all. It's something that there's a lot of work that goes into that throughout the year, not just during this audit process. Throughout the year, you have to make sure that you've got good policies in place, that you've got folks that are following through with those policies, that you're monitoring those policies and making sure they're being followed, and that you've got those internal controls in place, those checks and balances to make sure that the transactions are running through the system accurately. So very important there. And at the end of the day, through all the testing that we've done, we do have a few things that we'll note later in terms of some adjustments, but no material audit adjustments. And at the end of the day, we're able to issue a clean audit opinion. So very, very good news there. That's exactly what you're looking for to come out of this process each and every year. So good news. The Oregon Minimum Standards report, those additional compliance procedures that we perform, the procurement testing that we perform, we did not have any compliance findings to identify. So you'll see a very standard, straightforward report for those Oregon Minimum Standards and no compliance findings. And then our communication to those charged with governance. Of course, we always want to know, is there anything kind of the buzzword that you don't really want to hear is material weakness, right? So we want to let you know right off the bat, there were no material weaknesses in internal controls. That's kind of the highest severity of internal control deficiency we could note. But we do have a few best practice type items or things we want to note here in just a minute. So within our communication to those charged with governance, that separate letter that I mentioned that we issue with every audit, there's a number of things that we talk through in that letter. And those are kind of, you see the bullet points, those are kind of the main paragraphs that are covered, that we have to cover by our professional standards in that letter. But the ones I really want to focus on, because some of the other ones really, there was nothing out of the ordinary that we had to modify any of that language. It was a very smooth audit process. It was performed in the time frame that we initially laid out. We didn't have any significant disagreements. We didn't have any issues with obtaining any of the documentation. We felt that everyone we chatted with was very transparent in this process. So all of that language is very standard. But we do want to note, were there any audit adjustments in this process? So anything as we're doing our testing, is there anything that stands out as kind of being above some of our lower tier thresholds, right? I mean, we set a materiality threshold, and that triggers an audit adjustment. There's a lower tier threshold, much lower threshold that we look at as we're doing our testing to see it. Are we finding a lot of small things that add up to a larger thing too? So that's something that is kind of the nature of what was identified and what we'll see here in just a second on the next slide. So for our first slide here on some reclassification adjustments, so this didn't really impact your income, any of your revenues or expenses during the year, but there were two adjustments, one on the light side, one on the water side. You can see the dollar amounts that were involved there. And this has to do with closing out work orders that were in fact in service, that the construction work was completed and the assets were being used at that point. And so that's something as part of our testing. We want to know, are there work orders that need to be closed out and move those to assets in service and make sure that the depreciation process starts in a timely fashion. I know that the McMinnville Water and Light Department has worked very hard at making adjustments to this process, because those of you that were involved in this presentation a year ago, we had a much larger numbers that we were talking through here with this slide in particular. So these are much lower amounts than what we were talking about a year ago, and there's been a lot of work that's been done over the past year to clean up those open work orders and establish a new policy and practices for going forward and getting work orders closed out timely. Now, that's not something that's easy to change overnight whatsoever. It's a process that takes a lot of coordination between different departments and to get it right. So there's some fine tuning that's going on. But this is telling me that that's exactly what's happening, that there's been a lot of work that's already happened. These amounts that we're noting aren't raising to the materiality levels that we set each and every year, but they are something to note. They are things that are reflected in the financial statements, and there is a little more fine tuning to go. But there's already discussions and work being done to address this. And I would imagine kind of going forward into the next year, you may not see any items like this in there, is always the goal. Then the final item, we did note an adjustment for the BPA true-up liability, the load shaping true-up liability that was not initially recorded. This is something that's received kind of after year end, and that information had not been reflected in the financial statements. So we had discussions about that, and that has been recorded within the June 30th, 2021 financial statements for about $172,000. So that's reflected now. So that's everything that we identified in terms of audit adjustments. And again, good news, you compare this to the results from a year ago, and you can see that progress, excuse me. And that's exactly what we're looking for, and what we discussed through with the audit committee, and what you want to see as a commission, as well as the governing body for this organization, that you're seeing that progress as things are noted, that they're getting addressed each and every year, and they're much smaller level each and every year as well. So thanks again to John, to Mark, and the rest of the staff that we work with, not just the finance team. They do a lot of the heavy lifting, that we work with folks throughout the organization. We're talking to engineering, we're talking to payroll side of things, we're talking to customer service, IT as well. So there's a lot of folks that we work with in this process, and just want to say thanks for kind of all the hands-on deck approach that we've experienced, and the transparency throughout this process, and being able to kind of get to this point today and issue our final audit opinion. So thank you, and happy to entertain any questions that you might have at this point as well.
Do the commissioners have questions or comments?
No questions here, Mr. Chairman.
Nope. Okay. Well, thank you. I think Jody would agree that the auditors were quite forthcoming and informative when we had our audit committee meeting, and quite answer our questions, and I thought it was very helpful. Jody, anything else from?
No, I agree with you, Commissioner. I think that, yeah, we spend a lot of time in that meeting. And so I really do appreciate the thoroughness in which our questions are addressed, and comments, and sort of looking ahead. So thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation tonight as well.
Great. So anybody have any questions? I think we generally accept the audit, don't we, John or Sam?
Right. The formality is to move to accept the audit as presented.
I would so move.
I would second that.
Thanks,
Okay,
Jody.
it's been moved and seconded to accept the audit as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
passes unanimously. Thank you, Keith. And thank you, Mark. Mark, you have something too you wanted to talk to us about, right?
Yeah, I was just going to maybe make a couple of comments regarding the recommendations. And then also I just wanted to express thanks to our auditors and the other folks that were involved. Just briefly on the progress that we've made on the work orders and closing them in a timely manner. It's been interesting. We really started this process in earnest in March of this year. That's when our policy was developed, and engineering was really a key part of being able to kind of define our process, because our process wouldn't work if we couldn't actually execute it in our software. And engineering helped us figure out how to get in-service dates so that those are actually recorded in the software, and we can report out of the software on our in-service dates and look at the 90-day countdown, which is part of our policy to get work orders closed once they go in service within 90 days. And then the other thing that happened is as we were closing so many work orders, I mean, it was hundreds as opposed to tens, I guess. It was significant, the volume we were working to close. And as we went through the fiscal year doing that, we discovered that there were times where work orders that were closed by engineering accounting ran into costs that needed to be added to those work orders. And so we just initially, like we've done in the past, would ask engineering to reopen the work order. And then we would post cost to it, they would close it. And that would, in a couple cases, that went for 3 or 4 months and caused those work orders to cross the fiscal year and go outside of that 90-day deadline and become part of this adjustment that Keith presented. And so as we looked at that, we recognized that in accounting, when we are getting ready to capitalize work orders and we find that there's costs and we can't capitalize it, we've got to post cost to it. We're now in the process of working with engineering to determine if we can instead expense those costs if they're below our capitalization threshold. And we're just kind of individually discussing those and working to keep those work orders closed so we can capitalize them in a timely manner. So that's something we're continuing to work through and do. But I just wanted to acknowledge engineering's involvement in all of that, because this is something that we couldn't do on our own in accounting. And we're really appreciative of all the help that they've provided. And then also, the other thing that was interesting this year was every 2 years, we get reports from Milliman, the actuary service that City County Insurance uses for our other post-employment benefits. We have to record those, make an adjustment, and all of that stems from this work that Milliman does, and they provide that to us every 2 years. And this was a year when they provided it, but they actually were kind of behind this year. We normally, the latest I've ever got it was mid-September, and this year we didn't get it until mid-October. And actually it was, I think I got it like on the 18th and sent it back to Sydney, our adjustment and all the work papers, on the 21st of October. And that was like, we were into the third or draft, I think, at that point of the report. And so normally you have all your work papers all done before you ever start the drafts. And so she had to kind of backtrack and incorporate all that into all of the their version of our financials and accounting and all of that they roll up in the financial statement. She had to go and effectively add all of that. And it was quite a bit of work, I think, for her to put all that together, but they maintained the timeline for our being able to get our report done and do it in a way that we could review, and it just was really helpful. So a lot of effort this year. The fact that they were here on site was huge. really makes you appreciate that in a way that I haven't in the past. So anyway, so thanks to them and to everybody here at Waterline that went through this.
Ed, question?
Mark, don't beat yourself up over the work order system. We've been dealing with this at Water and Light for as long as I've been on the board, and I will tell you that you're in such better shape today than we were, say, 25 or 30 years ago. But I will tell you, in the private world, and Kathy can probably attest to this too, private enterprise has struggles with trying to close work orders out too. You know, parts get ordered and they don't show up for 2 or 3 months, and there's this outstanding work order. The work's been performed in that. So we know your pain, and we probably have a little easier way of doing with it because our auditors aren't our back necessarily like yours might be. So, right, Kathy?
Well, they certainly don't look at in detail the way that happens here. So it looks like a very strenuous situation to go through. And so I appreciate the outcome based on how much detail there is. Yeah.
Because basically Water and Light is much like your organization or mine. They're a service bureau, provide services to the community. They provide a product, water, sell it, that kind of stuff. Electricity, they buy wholesale, they retail it, and have all those service folks involved. So it's a fascinating business.
Yes.
Anyway, so Mark, thanks for the good work, really.
Jody, anything? So real quickly, at the audit committee, we discussed Mark's solution to this and be more efficient. And one thing we talked about, just to sort of keep this in the back of everybody's mind, there are some situations where we would want to, where it's important that we go back and actually reopen the work order and capture the cost, even though it might not be material in our general standards. And those are the ones where we may get reimbursed for it in the future, either whether it's part of the new water system, where we might want to bill somebody based on the cost we had going in, or I also think of the fuel station. If the city ever became a partner in that, we want to be able to capture all our costs. So Mark understands that, and they when they do this, there'll be a kind of a question on their checklist or whatever. Is this something we have to capture all the costs so we can recover them later? Most of the time it doesn't, but so that I thought that was a good solution.
So I will tell you, over the years, Water and Light has sent billings out to customers. Only 2 months later, send another bill because found some costs that weren't covered. And no one can complain about that because the document you sign allows them that authority and stuff. So I mean, I understand the need to park work orders until you get everything there. Like I said, in private sector world, we got a lot easier than what Mark might have to deal with it. We can sit on it, not have somebody, we don't worry about one fiscal year to the other. It isn't a sale until it's totally recorded. So
Ed, what I was concerned about, what we were concerned about at the audit committee level was that if we expense it rather than capitalize it, and then we want to get paid back for it either by somebody buying into the water treatment plant or even setting rates on the new water treatment plant for the Willamette source or the fuel station, if we've expensed it, we're going to eat that. So we want to be sure we capitalize things that may end up being part of a bill or a charge to someone later.
You're so right, Tom.
Thank you, Mark. I know it's a lot of work, and please thank your staff for us. And Keith, thank you very much, and please thank your staff. Okay.
Thomas, an auditor with a great smile. I can't believe it. Normally, he
has a good smile and a sharp pencil, so that's good.
Pencil? They don't use pencils anymore, Tom.
But I have to say I am smiling for multiple reasons. That's me in general. But I did get some good news recently in these last few days that I've been admitted to our partnership. So next year I will be the partner.
Congratulations. That is a big,
I'm very excited about that. Yes.
Congratulations.
Very great news. Yes, thank you.
Super. Okay, thank you, Keith. And I see the mayor isn't here quite yet, so we'll go on to the next item, which is the fuel station contract amendment. Who's handling that for us?
Bad, I'll bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, good evening. Let me pull this up real quick. Yeah, so tonight we're presenting to the commission the phase 2 of the design build project to the fuel station. Just kind of give you a recap of the process. Back in March of 2020, commission approved the resolution 2020-8 to go out for an alternative contracting method of a progressive design build delivery method. In that process, we did a formal solicitation. We got 2 proposals back from potential contractors. We scored those, and we came to the commission with that. And AEC was the highest ranked proposer. Commission approved that contract to enter into phase 1, which was the design of the fuel station. Since that time, we have been meeting with AEC on a weekly basis, project team here at Water and Light, and the contract crew, the design build team. We've been meeting weekly, going through the design of it. And it brought us to the point today. Last couple weeks ago, they submitted the guaranteed maximum price proposal and the 100% design documents. So what that does is it brings us to a point, a decision tree. The phase 1 contract document allowed the commission the opportunity for an off-ramp. And that's kind of where we're at tonight. So there's a, if the commission decided to, they could decide to actually stop with this project. We could actually award, decide to go out and bid it, or we can award to AEC. So that's where we're at tonight. AEC gave us a guaranteed maximum price of final of $1,571,814.64. There was a lot of back and forth with AEC. It came in about $170,000 higher. We looked at value engineer. We removed some items, some asphalt, a gate, and then they reduced their prices on some line items to get it to that price. Staff, myself, I feel pretty comfortable with the costs. The costs are what they are. They're a little bit higher than our budget of 1.5, and I think a lot of that just has to do with the environment we're in right now. Supply chain issues, costs are high. The lead times on the tanks have increased from when we first started this project. So there's a lot of that involved with the elevated price. But tonight, it's our recommendation to proceed into phase 2 with AEC for that guaranteed maximum price. Any questions?
Ed?
I'd just like to comment about someone that works in the piping industry. We're looking at what, 8-9%, 10% costs. This is a piping project. The resins and stuff. I think this is a double containment system. The tanks are probably double containment, and prices. Most of our vendors send escalation clauses to us, and when we're signing hard dollar contracts, it's our situation. We've had force majeure problems with some stuff, and I mean deliveries are unbelievable. So I am tickled to see it not be 20 or 30% over, and hopefully they can get the materials and stuff, because it's the piping world right now is a tough world for us.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Sam, is this amendment something that you prepared and it's good? It's the appropriate next step?
Yes, I did prepare it. It is integrated with the existing contract documents. So it is an amendment to the existing contract we have with Anderson right now. So the guts of our agreement with Anderson is already in place in terms of the prevailing wage, the bonding, the insurance requirements, all that are in quite a lengthy document these are just the amendment adds the guaranteed maximum price. It also adds the schedule and the design piece of it. But this is designed to slip into that larger contract.
Great. Okay. Anything we should be concerned about here?
Well, I don't think anything unreasonable. I don't think there's anything you should reasonably be concerned about. I think I know our staff will be following this project really closely. We'll be watching it as it proceeds forward. I'm confident that the paperwork is correct, and I think the process has been followed correctly.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any questions or concerns? So I think what we need is a motion to authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the amendment to this contract.
I would support that, and so moved.
Second, someone please.
Second.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner Gormley, seconded by Commissioner Tate. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passed unanimously. Thank you.
all right. So we'll understand that motion to be essentially in substance that action requested as on Mr. Hudson's memo of November 16th.
Yes, that's correct.
That was my intent. Yes, the first document we have in our packet.
Yes, that is correct.
Chad, thanks for staying on top of this. I know it's been a tough thing. This is new ground for us, and it's kind of an experiment, but it's a successful experiment in lots of other public agencies, so it works well.
Okay, Sam, do we want to talk about the organic milk people easements, before Organic Valley easements, or do you want to have executive session discussing that first?
Well, I thought what we do is maybe we just open it up into that topic. I could briefly just remind the commission of what we're talking about, and then we'll drop into executive session to talk about sort of the negotiation process.
Great.
So, Mr. Chairman, as last month I mentioned that I have potential conflict of interest with this, so I'll declare the conflict and step back.
Okay, we still have a quorum, so that's fine. Thank you. Sam, go ahead, please.
Okay, let me just get to it. Okay, so as you recall, at the last meeting, essentially just in summary, Organic Valley, as you all know, suffered a fire at their facility here on Highway 99. As part of that, they decided to rebuild. In discussions with Organic Valley, they became aware, or Water and Light has an 8-inch water main that crosses the property, actually enters the property from 3 sides. Organic Valley, in deciding to rebuild, is building on top of that existing water main. Back on October 11th, Mr. Dietz wrote a letter to Organic Valley kind of detailing how that rebuild would go and the replacement of the existing main, and how that would require a new easement from Organic Valley. And in exchange for that, we'd be releasing the existing easement or abandoning the existing easement. Shortly after that letter agreement, that line, that 8-inch line through the property was actually physically abandoned. It was physically disconnected. And so that's already accomplished, or been accomplished. And as you recall, in the October commission meeting, the commission reviewed and approved a form of easement to get a new water distribution easement across the Organic Valley property. Subsequent to that meeting, after your approval, I then was contacted about a week later by representatives of Organic Valley. The document finally made it to corporate offices back in Wisconsin, and they wanted some changes to it. So that at that point, I started to enter into a discussion with them, and I think at this point we can enter in. I would suggest we go into executive session to talk about those changes. This would be an executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660 sub 2 sub E to conduct deliberations with persons to negotiate a real property transaction.
Thank you, Sam. Before we do that, I'll indicate for the record that Mayor Hill has now been able to join the meeting, and I will take us into executive session and then he can take over after that. So anybody have any objection to executive session on this matter?
I'll just remind everyone that I need to leave a few minutes before 6. So I may be having to leave during executive session. I don't know if that's an issue, but I'll make note of that.
I don't think that's an issue. Is it, Sam?
We'll just need to keep track of it. If Commissioner Christensen is not in the meeting, we're going to come back into open session. So if she's not in open session at that point, we'll just need to make a note of that for the minutes that she's no longer in the meeting. And I think we'll have for the session, we'll have Mr. Dietz will be in the session. Mr. Burke will be in the session. I think that's of course Commission Clerk and the commissioners.
Great. Okay. So I will now call us into executive session.